The forest held its breath, silence broken only by faint cries of hungry chicks. Suddenly a snake slithered from the shadows, scales gleaming like liquid. Emma whispered, "Something moves below us." Jack flapped his wings, his cry sharp against the night. The grass trembled as the snake advanced, each coil a slow promise of ruin. Emma screamed, "Not the nest!" Her wings spread wide, but the predator crept closer, tongue flickering, eyes fixed on the helpless young Dot. Jack dove striking with desperate force, but the intruder refused to retreat. The nest quivered, chicks trembling at the edge of fate. Nature's law revealed itself, cruel, merciless, absolute. Tonight survival was no gift, only a war. The nest shook as though caught in a storm. Jack struck again, but the snake twisted aside, its scales gleaming. Emma said, "Hold him off, I'll shield them." Her wings arched wide, trembling around the chicks. Their cries rose, but the hiss drowned them. Jack landed, chest heaving, feathers torn. He cried, "I will not let you near them." The snake coiled tighter, muscles thrumming with patience. The forest seemed to vanish, leaving predator and protectors locked in silence. Time dragged like chains, each heartbeat heavier than the last. Survival was no longer distant, it pressed against them, sharp and merciless. The forest's silence pressed like a weight. Every sound sharpened, hiss of scales, wings beating, faint cries of chicks. Emma whispered, "They are too small, they cannot survive alone." Jack lunged again, claws flashing, beak hammering. The snake moved smoothly, unbroken, deliberate. The chicks pressed tighter into the twigs as if to vanish. Jack gasped, "He will not tire." Emma's wings trembled but did not fold. The fight became a matter of time, each second stretched unbearably. The rhythm of danger pounded like a drum. Survival's outcome stood on a knife's edge. The snake lunged upward with terrifying speed. Jack twisted aside, a feather torn, drifting down. Emma cried, "Stay back!" Her voice cracked with fury. The chicks squeaked louder, their frail bodies pressed together. Fangs flashed inches away. Jack flapped upward, then dove, his cry slicing through the air. He shouted, "You will not take them!" Light dimmed fast, shadows reaching across the ground. The air grew heavier, heartbeat loud as thunder. Fate closed in, leaving no space for mercy. The night turned into a crucible of survival, violent and absolute. Darkness thickened, swallowing the clearing. The snake crept higher, its head above the nest rim. Emma screamed, "No," and struck with wings that thundered. Jack dove, beak tearing at scales. The predator recoiled but pressed forward. The chicks wailed, cries piercing, fragile yet fierce. Emma shook, feathers frayed, but she did not falter. Jack cried, "We cannot hold forever," yet he struck again with fire in his eyes. The nest trembled, twigs creaked, destiny weighed heavy. The forest stood in silence, bearing witness to survival's cruel bargain. The snake lingered in the shadows, waiting. The storm of the attack had paused, but dread lingered heavier than silence. Emma whispered, "They are afraid." Her wings wrapped tightly around the nest, trembling but unyielding. Jack panted, feathers torn, his eyes locked on the predator. He muttered, "I cannot rest, not while it watches." The chicks pressed into her warmth, their tiny bodies shivering. The forest seemed vast, uncaring, yet inside the nest, every heartbeat thundered with fear. Emma's gaze softened as she looked down at them. She murmured, "They are our world, Jack." His wings sagged, yet his eyes hardened with fire. He said, "Then we fight until the last breath." The fragile bond of love burned brighter against the coming darkness. The night deepened, stars veiled by thick clouds. Jack perched above the nest, scanning the darkness. His chest rose and fell in ragged rhythm. Emma whispered, "You should rest." He shook his head, voice edged with steel, "Rest invites death." Below, the chicks whimpered softly, small voices weaving through the silence. Emma lowered her beak to nuzzle them, her feathers trembling as she murmured, "They must feel safe, even if we are not." The forest groaned with distant calls, every echo a reminder of lurking threats. Jack's eyes never blinked. He said, "As long as I stand, no shadow will pass." Emma breathed deeply, torn between fear and fierce devotion. In that fragile space, love anchored them to hope. A faint breeze stirred, rustling leaves like whispers. Emma said, "Do you remember when they hatched?" Her voice trembled, warmth mixing with sorrow. Jack's eyes softened. They were so small, barely alive, yet fierce in their cries. The chicks stirred, pressing closer, feathers brushing against her chest. She sighed. "I feared they would not last a single day." Jack lowered his head, his torn feathers glinting faintly. He whispered, "And now we fight so they may see tomorrow." Silence held them, heavy with memory and promise. The predator loomed nearby, but their bond forged a wall stronger than fear. In the fragile rhythm of love, hope fought to root itself in the soil of despair. The forest pulsed with distant cries. A predator elsewhere took life, its scream echoing like a warning. Emma flinched but did not move from the nest. She said softly, "The world devours the weak." Jack lowered his wings, his body sagging, yet his voice cut firm, "But we will not surrender them." The chicks whimpered, eyes wide, fragile bodies quivering. Emma pressed closer, her feathers brushing them gently. Her voice broke, "Even if it takes me." Jack's heart pounded. He clenched his claws into the branch. "If one falls," he whispered, "the other must rise." Silence returned, heavy and cold. The night's lesson was carved into them. Survival was not a gift, it was a promise made in blood. The wind carried scents of damp earth and death. Emma's eyes glimmered as she whispered, "They deserve more than this." Her feathers shook, but she never loosened her embrace. Jack lifted his head, his gaze tracing the horizon beyond the dark. "If they live, then tomorrow holds a chance," he said, voice raw but steady. The chicks stirred, beaks pressing against her feathers, seeking warmth. Emma breathed heavily, the weight of their fragility crushing her chest. She whispered, "They are our anchor, Jack." He nodded, eyes blazing. "Then we anchor ourselves in them." The night pressed closer, but in that fragile circle of feathers, the spark of hope flickered against despair. The forest seemed to hold its breath, darkness sinking deeper into every corner. The snake shifted slowly, its muscles rippling beneath cold, gleaming scales. Jack whispered, "He waits for us to weaken." His voice trembled with exhaustion, but his eyes did not falter. Emma spread her wings, shielding the chicks who trembled beneath her. She murmured, "Be still, little ones." Their cries stilled, though their tiny bodies shook against her warmth. The predator's tongue flickered, tasting the fear in the air. Jack flared his feathers wide, his wings drooping but unbroken. He declared, "Then we must strike before he strikes." Emma met his gaze with fear and fire. The nest was no longer a shelter. It had become a battlefield where survival demanded sacrifice. Without warning, the snake lunged upward, its body whipping like a shadow made of muscle. Jack launched into the air, wings beating violently, his beak tearing downward in a desperate strike. A hiss cut through the night, long and venomous, shattering the silence. Emma cried, "Keep him away." Her claws dug into the nest as her wings wrapped tighter around the chicks. Their squeals rose like fragile sparks, drowned by the chaos of battle. Jack grunted, "He is stronger than I believed." His feathers tore as sharp fangs scraped his wing, droplets of blood falling like dark rain. The nest rattled under the force of the clash, every twig bending, splintering, threatening collapse. The night itself seemed to shrink, pressing in as predator and protector collided with savage force. The forest echoed with chaos, as though every branch and leaf bore witness. The snake recoiled, then coiled again, faster and more relentless, eyes burning with hunger. Jack staggered back, wings torn, blood dripping from a deep wound. He gasped, "I cannot hold forever." His body sagged, but his spirit clung to fire. Emma trembled, her feathers quivering, but her voice steadied. Then we endured together. The chicks wailed, their thin cries piercing through the violent night, small sparks of life refusing to fade. The snake weaved its head side to side, searching for the opening to end them all. Jack lunged, claws raking against scales, sparks of defiance in his eyes. Though his body faltered, his will rose stronger, a desperate flame in the storm of survival. The snake erupted again, striking with terrifying speed, body snapping like a whip. Jack twisted midair, a sharp feather torn free, fluttering downward into darkness. Emma shrieked, "Stay back!" Her wings beat in furious rhythm, a storm of feathers filling the air. The chicks squealed, pressing deeper into the nest, their fragile bodies shaking as if the earth itself trembled. Jack shouted, "I will not yield." His claws raked across glistening scales, a cry tearing from his beak as he fought to drive the predator back. The snake recoiled but did not retreat, its body poised to strike again, relentless, merciless. The forest around them darkened, shadows stretching like talons across the ground. The battle had become endless rhythm. Strike, dodge, cry, defend. No peace. No pause. Only survival. The nest shook violently, its twigs snapping under the strain of the fight. The snake coiled higher, rising with dreadful patience, its eyes fixed on the defenseless chicks. Jack dropped heavily onto the branch, his chest streaked with blood, his breaths ragged. He whispered, "I am failing." His wings sagged, but his eyes refused to dim. Emma trembled, every feather quivering, yet her voice carried steel. "You are their shield." She spread her wings wide, covering the chicks as they cried, their fragile voices piercing through the storm. The snake hissed louder, scales shifting like blades as it prepared to strike. Jack raised his head, fire flickering once more in his battered frame. He roared, "Then I fight until nothing remains." Silence fell in the forest, as though nature itself paused to watch fate close in. The snake's eyes glimmered, not only with hunger, but with desperation. Its ribs showed through dull scales, body scarred with old wounds. Jack gasped, "He is starving." Emma's gaze faltered, confusion breaking through fury. She whispered, "He fights for life as we do." The chicks whimpered, blind to the revelation. The predator's hiss trembled, not rage but exhaustion, every movement weighed by suffering. The forest seemed to lean closer, holding its cruel secret in silence. Jack said bitterly, "To him, our children are survival." Emma's feathers shook. She murmured, "And to us, they are the world." The truth struck sharp. Nature's war carried no villains, only creatures desperate to endure another dawn. The forest whispered with wind, leaves trembling as if mourning. Emma said softly, "He carries hunger like a wound." Jack's beak tightened, his chest heaving, torn between rage and pity. The snake coiled slower now, tongue flicking weakly, eyes dim. The chicks stirred beneath Emma, their cries soft and unknowing. Jack muttered, "If he fails tonight, he dies." Emma closed her eyes briefly, sorrow flickering across her face. She whispered, "Survival takes more than we can bear." The truth crushed them. Predator and protector shared the same desperate fight. The nest became a mirror of nature's law, every life clinging to existence on the same fragile thread. Jack lunged again, but his strike faltered midair. The snake did not resist, only recoiled with weary hiss. Emma gasped, "He has no strength left." Her eyes softened as she saw scars across the serpent's frame. The chicks squealed, their innocence untouched by truth. Jack landed hard, chest heaving, blood dripping down his wing. He said bitterly, "Yet still he comes, for he has no choice." Emma trembled, her wings folding tighter. She whispered, "We fight for them, he fights for himself." The forest gave no answer, only silence heavy with judgment. In that moment, survival's cruel equality shattered their certainty, leaving only despair and reluctant understanding. The snake paused, head low, coils trembling with weakness. Emma's voice cracked. He suffers as we suffer. Jack growled. And yet he threatens what we love. His beak clicked, torn between duty and pity. The chicks shifted, their small voices cutting through the dark, pure and fragile. The predator's eyes flickered with strange stillness, a reflection of his own despair. Emma whispered, "The world takes and gives nothing back." Jack's feathers bristled, rage rising, yet sorrow lingered in his stare. For a heartbeat, the nest held more than a fight. It held the truth of all creatures trapped in the same brutal law of existence. The night pressed heavier, as though the forest itself leaned in judgment. Emma whispered, "He is no monster, Jack. He is only survival." Jack's chest heaved, torn between compassion and fury. He shouted, "Then survival demands blood." His cry out sharp, yet his eyes betrayed grief. The chicks whimpered, their fragile forms hidden beneath trembling feathers. The snake coiled once more, though its body shook, every move a plea for life. Emma closed her eyes, whispering, "No one leaves untouched. I'm A1." The truth hung between them, prey and predator bound by the same chains of hunger, loss, and desperate need. The nest was no longer a battleground, but a mirror of nature's brutal balance. The forest snapped alive with chaos. The snake lunged upward in a final surge, body coiled with desperate fury. Jack screamed, "Not my family!" His wings burst open, blood spraying from old wounds as he collided midair with the serpent's head. Emma shrieked, "Protect them!" Her body arched wide, feathers slashing the night like blades. The chicks wailed, their cries piercing louder than the storm of wings and scales. The snake struck, fangs grazing Jack's chest, venom dripping into the air. He roared in agony but clawed harder, tearing against flesh. Emma's heart hammered, her eyes blazed with fire. This was no longer battle. It was survival's judgment, and nature had no mercy left to give. Jack clung to the serpent, beak hammering down, feathers shredding beneath its coils. He roared, "You will not pass." Venom dripped down his chest, searing his body with fire. Emma screamed, her wings rattling the nest, "Hold on!" The chicks squeaked, their small bodies pressed tight beneath trembling feathers. The snake writhed, scales flashing, jaws snapping, each strike faster than the last. Jack's body shook, blood dripping onto the forest floor. He gasped, "If I fall, protect them." Emma's heart split, tears burning her eyes. She cried, "You will not fall." The night thundered with the clash of predator and protector, every heartbeat a drumbeat of survival's rage. The snake tightened its coils, muscles crushing Jack's body, bones creaking under the force. He shrieked, "I will never yield." His claws dug deep, blood staining the serpent's scales. Emma lunged from the nest, feathers slicing through the air as she struck at the serpent's eyes. She cried, "Let him go!" The chicks wailed louder, voices breaking through the storm of battle. The snake recoiled, blood seeping from a torn eyelid, hissing with rage. Jack tore himself free, crashing to the ground, his chest heaving in broken gasps. Emma flapped back over the nest, wings trembling but unbroken. Predator and parents locked eyes. No retreat, no forgiveness, only the final strike to decide survival. The forest roared with chaos, as if echoing their fury. Jack rose weakly, staggering on torn wings. He screamed, "This ends now." His voice split the silence like thunder. Emma hovered above the nest, eyes blazing with defiance. The snake lunged, jaws wide, fangs glinting with venom. Jack hurled himself forward, claws extended, colliding midair with its strike. Their bodies slammed together, feathers and scales exploding into the night. The chicks shrieked, their cries sharp as shattered glass. Emma cried, "For them!" Her wings beat with storm's force, shielding the nest. The battle became a blur of light and shadow, predator and protector bound in a single violent heartbeat of survival. The climax ripped through the night. Jack tore into the serpent's throat with final fury, feathers drenched in blood. The snake hissed in rage, its body thrashing wildly, smashing branches. Emma screamed, "End it!" Her wings shivered as she clung to the nest. The chick's cries pierced the storm, tiny sparks refusing to fade. Jack roared for them. His beak sank deeper, tearing the serpent's life apart. The snake collapsed, its coils unraveling, its hiss fading into silence. Jack staggered, chest heaving, blood dripping from beak and feathers. He whispered weakly, "It is done." The forest fell silent, witness to the brutal truth. Survival was victory, but victory carried scars that never healed. Silence fell heavy after the storm of violence. The snake's body lay broken, coiled lifeless against the roots, its eyes dimmed forever. Jack staggered, blood dripping from his feathers, wings trembling with every breath. Emma whispered, "It is over." Her voice cracked with exhaustion and grief. The chicks squeaked faintly, their cries piercing through the stillness. Jack groaned. "I fought until nothing was left." His chest heaved, eyes dulled with pain yet still burning with pride. Emma pressed her wings tighter around the nest, tears glistening in her gaze. Nature gave no applause, no comfort. Only silence, as though the forest itself acknowledged the price paid for survival. The wind carried the scent of blood and earth. Jack stood unsteady, feathers ragged, his eyes fixed on the fallen serpent. He whispered, "Even in death, he reminds us." Emma lowered her gaze to the chicks, whispering, "They are alive." Her wings trembled, her body shaking from strain. The chicks chirped softly, their small beaks opening for comfort, unaware of the night's cruel weight. Jack staggered closer to the nest, claws scraping bark. He murmured, "We endure because we must." The forest remained still, shadows thinning as dawn crept slowly. The truth lingered sharp. Victory had come, but not without the shadow of loss carved into every breath. Dawn broke slowly, golden light spilling across broken branches. Emma whispered, "The forest breathes again." Her eyes lingered on the chicks, their fragile bodies pressed close, alive despite the storm. Jack limped to her side, his wings sagging under weight of blood. He said, "We have scars that will never heal." Emma lowered her head, touching his with quiet tenderness. "But they live," she murmured. The chicks chirped weakly, their tiny voices echoing against the silence. Jack's gaze hardened with resolve, his chest rising despite pain. "Then our fight was worth it." The forest glowed with new light, cruel and beautiful, carrying both death and renewal in its breath. The nest creaked beneath Emma's wings, twigs bent and broken from the fight. She whispered, "This home nearly fell tonight." Jack lowered his head, voice weak but steady, "But it still holds." The chicks stirred, pressing into her warmth, their small cries carrying fragile hope. Jack's body quivered as he tried to spread his wings, only to wince in pain. He muttered, "I am no longer strong." Emma leaned against him, her feathers brushing his torn chest. "Strength is not what carried us," she said softly. The forest exhaled with the rising sun, a reminder that even ruin could cradle life, even broken wings could shield hope. The sun climbed higher, warming feathers chilled by night's violence. Jack whispered, "The forest takes, and the forest leaves us here to endure." Emma's eyes softened, her voice trembling, "But we are still here." The chicks lifted their heads, fragile voices calling out, small but defiant. Jack's body sagged, yet pride gleamed in his weary eyes. He murmured, "Our scars are proof of survival." Emma pressed her wings tighter around the nest, eyes glistening. She said, "And proof of love." The forest answered with silence, its judgment complete. Survival had been won, but the cost would linger forever, written in every feather, every broken twig, every breath they took. The forest stood still, every branch heavy with silence. Jack leaned against the nest, feathers broken, eyes hollow, yet proud. Emma whispered, "We are alive, though the night has scarred us." The chicks stirred, their faint cries fragile echoes of survival. The corpse of the snake lay motionless beneath the roots, its story ended in shadow. Jack's breath rattled as he murmured, "His hunger was his curse, our love our shield." Emma pressed closer, eyes shimmering with grief and resilience. The dawn stretched across the clearing, golden light falling upon wounds and feathers alike. Nature gave no comfort, only a quiet reminder that survival always demands sacrifice. A breeze swept gently, stirring broken feathers across the ground. Emma whispered. The nest will never be whole again. Her wings wrapped tighter around the chicks, shielding them from the chill. Jack gazed at the ruined branches, his chest rising in heavy rhythm. He said, but it held through the storm. The chicks chirped faintly, voices trembling but alive. The forest awoke slowly with dawn, distant calls weaving into the silence. Emma lowered her head, murmuring, every scar is proof we endured. Jack's weary eyes softened with sorrow. He breathed, and proof that we were willing to bleed for them. In that fragile circle of feathers, life had been spared, yet nothing was unbroken. The sun climbed higher, casting long shadows over the fallen serpent. Jack whispered, the forest is quiet, but its silence is cruel. Emma's gaze lingered on the snake, eyes filled with reluctant sorrow. She murmured, he too fought for survival. The chicks shifted beneath her feathers, their cries small but steady. Jack's body trembled as he spread his wings, pain racking every bone. He muttered, I may not fly again as before. Emma pressed against him, her voice tender. Then you will walk with us instead. The air shimmered with golden light, carrying both grief and hope. The clearing bore witness to survival's cost, death, scars, and love, bound together. The forest awakened fully, birds calling from distant branches, yet the clearing remained heavy with silence. Emma whispered, we are still here. Jack